So in this video, I wanted to show you how I edited my calculator to add user input and then how you can change variable types. So I did the work here already. This was my original calculator down here, and this is what I added, but I'm going to go back and add it again so that you can see how I did that. So I always want to start with a text box so that I can say like what I'm doing. So I'm going to be asking for user input and checking the variables. Which remember we can just check them by printing to make sure they're stored correctly. Okay, so then I'm going to add a code box. So this time, instead of just saying length is 10 and width is 6, now since I did my weekly coding practice week 2, I saw the video and I know how to ask for user input. So this time, I'm going to say length equals, and I'm going to say input because I want to ask someone to input the values. Now, if I just leave it like this and then I run it, it'll just be a blank box and they won't know what to type into it. So I actually want to add some words here in my quotations to say what I'm looking for. So I can say, what is the length of your rectangle? Because remember, I'm trying to calculate the area of a rectangle. Okay, and then I want to do the same thing for width. So width is going to equal an input, and I'm going to ask the user, what is the width of your rectangle? Okay, so now if I run this, it's going to say, what is the length of your rectangle? I can type any value I want in there. What is the width of your rectangle? Okay, and that's it. It doesn't do anything else with it. Now, another thing I can do is I can ask it to print the values to make sure they're stored correctly. And if I want to, remember, I can also give them a label, length. So it'll print length. It'll print the word length for the colon and then what the actual length is stored as. And then I can print the width, do my label first, and then print what it has stored as width. So now run it. What is the length of your rectangle? Let's say 11, and the width is 5, and it's going to say length 11, width 5. Perfect. So I asked for user input, and I checked my variables. So the next step would then to be calculating the area using that. So I'm going to add another text box, calculating area with input values. So I'm calculating my area with the values that someone input. So my code, area equals length times width. So I don't really need to change that. And then obviously I need to print it. And maybe I want to give it a label. I could keep it simple and just say area, like I did in the other one. Or I could make it a little fancier. Oh, don't forget the comma there. Or I can make it a little fancier and make it a whole statement like the area of your rectangle is. Okay, so now you're going to see here that there's an error. And it says there's an error in the area, length times width, and it says it can't multiply sequence by non-int of type string. So right now, str means string. It thinks that the length and width, these values up here, are strings. So another thing you should have learned this week is how to tell the computer what type of variable you want something to be. So what I can do is I can go back up here to this code, and I want to tell it that actually length and width are floats. We might as well do float so that way in case someone types in a decimal length and width. So all I have to do is say length equals float of length. So I'm just telling the computer, turn whatever the value is for length into a float. That's what it is. And then the same thing, width equals float of width. Okay, so now let's try it again. So let's say I'll use similar numbers 11 and 7. Okay, so my length now, see it says 11.0 and 7.0, it knows it's a float. Now if I try to calculate this again, ta-da! The area of your rectangle is 77. So it worked perfectly. So the new things I added in are asking the user to type in the variable, so asking for input, and then changing my variable type to a float. So now I can go back and I can delete all the rest of this stuff if I want to, and this will be all that is left of my code. This is my updated version.